we use a ball hitch because it removes a lot of slack between the implement and the machine, but a ball hitch also allows us to lift on the hitch, which is why we have the big ram at the front and the little depth leg. That all works hand in hand and keeps the machine at a working height. The depth leg here is very important to how the machine picks up the net. As the tractor's going along, it might have to rock about because it's hit a spray wheeling or a hole in the field or something along them lines. So we have this leg which glides along on this ski on top of the bed, so then the machine is working at the correct depth going on the bed height. If we didn't have this system, as the tractor rocked about, we'd have problems with the shear digging into the net, ripping it open, and you'd end up having to pick up a large part of the field by hand. So this depth leg is a massive time saver because it's completely automatic, really. It also relieves a lot of driver fatigue. As this rides along the field like so, it's constantly adjusting this ram, making sure that that front shear is at the right position to take the net. Because if it's too high, it'll rip it. If it's too low, then you'll just have too much soil for the machine to handle. The clearing auger then removes the top soil, uncovering the net, which is then taken up. When we had this machine built, we had a custom auger put in, which has replaceable tines on. These tines take up the majority of the wear during the season, whereas before we were changing the auger a few times during the season. Staying with the clearing auger, we've had a modification this year. Remember, this is our second season, we wanted to do something a bit different. We added this black cover to cage in all the dust, because we've had some very dry years recently, which has made it quite horrible conditions to work in. And we hope it will do well this year. After the clearing auger, we then come to the front shear. The front shear goes underneath the net and then takes up net and soil. It then comes up and begins an S pattern. The soil carries on, but the net enters the S. After removing the bottom soil, we need to remove the top soil. That's where it comes around this first barrel and the top soil falls on these cross conveyors, which takes it out the sides. The net then travels on to this top roller, where it then separates the net, revealing the bulbs. We're now at the top of the S-bend. This is where the two nets are separated. The top half of the net peels away along this roller, and any stray bulbs that have got caught in the top net are removed by these rollers. The net top layer then goes onto that roller there, where it's collected and then disposed of at the end of the field. The lower half of the net carries along this conveyor and tucks underneath here, so the bulbs carry on and follow on into the coop kistons. At the back here we have the box filler. This is in the transport mode at the minute, but in field it folds out like a batwing mower almost. This centre roller comes down, a coop kiston similar to an onion box is then put on the back and then tilted back up into this position where the conveyor belt feeds the bulbs into the box. There is an infrared sensor which detects the height of the bulbs in the box and tilts accordingly, so you get a soft loading into the box. Once the box is filled, there's a stop at the bottom there which pushes the box off and onto the field behind. It's then collected by somebody in a teleporter or a front end loader to be taken away to your grading line. when the box is off, these bat wings hold spare boxes. So it automatically, using chains, shoves a box into the new position where it's reset and continued filling. We collect the net using these black tubes placed in between these two rollers like so. It is then hydraulically driven and goes faster if the roll diameter is smaller and goes slower if the roll diameter is larger. And that is monitored by this sensor at the top. It's quite clever as well because it also calculates this using wheel speed. Once we have a large diameter roll on this collector, we then remove it from these two rollers into this cradle and we take it off the machine like so. This entire assembly hinges on hydraulics. We collect the net up and send most of it off to recycling at the end of the season. This is the netting that the tulips are planted between. There are two layers of this and it's very similar to baler wrap. We plant it between the net because we don't lift the stones, we don't lift the clod, and it gives us a much easier way of lifting the product. And you end up with a box full of bulbs instead of clod which you then have to sort out later. And lastly, the rear axle is an extending steering axle, which makes it a lot easier for turning on ends. And on our new machine, it also runs air brakes, so we're now able to travel at 50 km.